What if a machine kept working long after everyone who understood it had disappeared? In March 1998, a telecommunications engineer named Rafael Mendoza was conducting a routine audit of decommissioned infrastructure across rural Aragon when he stumbled upon something that shouldn't exist: an active data transmission system inside Estación de Canfranc, a train station that had been officially closed since 1970. The station itself was a monument to abandonment. Built in 1928 as a grand international railway hub connecting Spain and France through the Pyrenees, it had been one of Europe's most ambitious infrastructure projects. The building stretched over 240 meters, featuring ornate Art Deco architecture, customs facilities, and advanced telecommunications equipment for its era. But a bridge collapse on the French side in 1970 severed the connection permanently. The trains stopped, the staff left, the Spanish government sealed the administrative offices in 1972. Yet there, in a locked basement room beneath the eastern wing, Mendoza found a Telefonica teletype system, model RTX-14, manufactured in 1965, clicking steadily in the darkness. The machine was designed to relay encrypted railway coordination messages between stations. During the station's operational years, it had transmitted schedules, cargo manifests, and border control notifications. It required constant maintenance, ribbon replacements, mechanical adjustments, electrical monitoring. Without intervention, these machines typically failed within weeks. This one had allegedly been disconnected 26 years earlier. Mendoza's initial report, filed with Telefónica's regional office in Zaragoza, described the scene with clinical precision. Unit RTX-14, serial BX4471, found operational. Power source, hardwired to municipal grid, never disconnected during station closure. Mechanical condition, functional. Output, continuous transmission on frequency 447.8 MHz. Content, repeating 23-character alphanumeric sequence. No variation detected during 40-minute observation period. The company's response was bureaucratic indifference. Decommissioned equipment left connected to the power grid wasn't unprecedented. It was simply expensive to properly dismantle old systems. Someone would get to it eventually. But Mendoza couldn't let it go. He returned 3 days later with recording equipment. The sequence the machine transmitted was this: X7 Frontera Carga 1844. It repeated 90 seconds exactly. No degradation, no variation. The same message over and over, as it had presumably been doing in the dark for 26 years. Mendoza cross-referenced the code with archived railway documentation. X7 was a designation for cross-border freight verification. Frontera meant border, carga was cargo, and 1844 matched a specific train number from the winter schedule of 1969-1970, one of the last international trains before the bridge collapse. Train 1844 had been a night freight service carrying textiles from Barcelona to Toulouse. According to the final operations log from January 1970, Train 1844 had crossed through Canfranc on the night of January 27th without incident. The bridge collapsed 3 weeks later on February 18th, and the station closed permanently 4 months after that. So why was the system still calling for clearance on a train from 1970? Mendoza presented his findings to his supervisor, who dismissed them with a shrug. Old machines do strange things. Pull the plug if it bothers you. But when Mendoza returned to do exactly that, he discovered something that made him photograph everything and leave without touching a single wire. The room was supposed to be empty. When Mendoza descended into the basement on March 19, 1998, his third visit to the station, he brought a simple plan: photograph the teletype unit, disconnect it from the power supply, and file a closure report. A footnote in a bureaucratic database, nothing more. But when he unlocked the steel door with the master key provided by the Zaragoza office, he found that someone had been maintaining the machine. The mechanical components were clean, no dust on the keys, no corrosion on the electrical contacts. The ribbon, which should have disintegrated years ago, was fresh, recently replaced. Standard Telefonica issue, the kind used in active installations. And next to the machine, on a small metal table, sat a maintenance log. The log was a simple notebook, bound in black cloth, with entries written in blue ink. The handwriting was precise, methodical. Each entry followed the same format: date, time, brief technical note. March 11, 1998, 14:30. Ribbon replaced, unit operational. February 26, 1998, 09:15. Electrical contacts cleaned, transmission stable. January 14, 1998, 16:45. Mechanical adjustment, frequency confirmed 4.47.8 MHz. The entries went back months, always the same handwriting, always routine maintenance procedures, never any name, never any explanation of why someone was servicing a machine in an abandoned station that had been closed for 28 years. Mendoza felt his pulse quicken as he flipped backward through the pages. The entries continued into 1997, then 1996, then further back, year after year, the handwriting never changing, the routine never varying. The notebook had over 200 pages. The earliest entry he could find was dated July 3, 1972, just weeks after the station's administrative offices had been officially sealed. July 3, 1972, 11 a.m. Initial inspection post-closure. Unit RTX-14 operational. Frequency stable. Will maintain. 26 years of secret maintenance. Whoever had written this had been coming to this locked room in this abandoned station for over a quarter century, performing routine upkeep on a machine whose only function was to transmit a message about a train that no longer existed. Mendoza photographed every page. He reported his findings to Telefónica's security division. The response came within 48 hours. No current employee had authorization to access Estación de Canfranc. The master key registry showed only 3 copies, one held by Mendoza himself for the audit, one locked in the Zaragoza office safe, and one that had been reported lost in 1973. Lost, not stolen. Lost. The company launched a half-hearted internal investigation. They changed the locks. They sent a technician to finally disconnect the teletype unit. That technician was a man named Javier Ruiz, a veteran with 30 years of service who'd worked on the original Canfranc installation in the 1960s. Ruiz arrived at the station on April 2, 1998. Mendoza accompanied him, curious to see how someone who knew the station in its operational days would react to the mystery. Ruiz said nothing as they descended into the basement. He examined the machine in silence, running his fingers over the keys, checking the connections. Then he opened the maintenance log and read several pages, his expression unreadable. Finally, he closed the notebook and looked at Mendoza. "I know this handwriting," Ruiz said quietly. "Who?" Mendoza asked. "Miguel Santana. He was the chief telecommunications operator here from 1965 until the closure. He trained me when I was an apprentice." He paused. "He died in 1974. Heart attack. I went to his funeral." Mendoza felt something cold settled in his stomach. "That's impossible. These entries go into 1998. Ruiz nodded slowly. He wasn't arguing. He was simply stating a fact. He recognized the handwriting of a dead man. "There's something else," Ruiz added, pointing to the teletype machine. "This model, RTX-14, had a design flaw, the internal clock mechanism. It drifted, lost about 40 seconds per day. After a few weeks without calibration, the transmission intervals would become irregular. So, this machine has been transmitting every 90 seconds, exactly for 26 years. Ruiz tapped the machine's casing. That's not possible unless someone has been manually calibrating the clock mechanism every 2 weeks. It's a 15-minute procedure, requires partial disassembly." He let that sink in. "Whoever's been maintaining this," Ruiz continued, "knows these machines better than anyone alive." They disconnected the unit that day, cut the power, locked the room. Mendoza filed his final report, and the matter was officially closed. But 3 months later, in July 1998, a railway historian named Carmen Vidal contacted Mendoza after reading a brief mention of the incident in a telecommunications trade journal. She had found something in the National Railway Archives in Madrid, something about train 1844. Carmen Vidal arrived in Zaragoza on July 14, 1998, carrying a worn leather briefcase filled with photocopied documents. She met Mendoza at a cafe near the Telefonica office, and before he could even order coffee, she spread the papers across the table. "Train 1844 never completed its final journey," she said. Mendoza looked at the documents. They were customs declarations, cargo manifests, and border control logs from January 1970, the last month Estación de Canfranc operated as an international crossing. "According to the Spanish railway records," Vidal continued, "Train 1844 departed Barcelona on the night of January 27, 1970, carrying 42 tons of textile cargo destined for Toulouse. It was scheduled to cross through Canfranc at 03:15 on January 28th. She pointed to a stamped document. "This is the departure clearance from Barcelona, signed and verified." Then she placed another document beside it. "This is the arrival log at Canfranc. Train 1844 checked in at 03:12, 3 minutes early. The teletype system sent the standard border clearance request, X7 Frontera Carga 1844. "Right," Mendoza said, and then it continued to France. "No," Vidal shook her head. "That's the problem. There's no record of train 1844 ever arriving at the French border station in Vaduz. Not that night, not ever." She pulled out a French railway document stamped with the official seal of SNCF. I requested this from the French National Archives. They confirmed no train matching that cargo manifest or identification number crossed from Spain into France on January 28, 1970, or any day after. Mendoza felt a familiar coldness returning. So where did it go? That's what I've been trying to find out for 6 months. Vidal opened a notebook filled with her own handwriting, interviews, phone calls, research notes. I tracked down former railway workers, border officials, anyone who was at Canfranc in early 1970. Most are dead. The few who are still alive don't remember anything unusual about that night. But someone must have noticed a missing train. You'd think so, but here's what makes it stranger. She placed another document on the table, an insurance claim form from March 1970. The textile company in Barcelona filed a claim for lost cargo 2 months later. They said the shipment never arrived in Toulouse. The insurance company paid out. Case closed. Did anyone investigate? Officially, no. The assumption was that the train had been caught in the chaos after the bridge collapse in February. Records were messy during the shutdown. Everyone was focused on the infrastructure disaster, not on tracking individual freight shipments from weeks earlier. Vidal leaned forward. But I found something else, something nobody filed officially. She pulled out a photocopy of a handwritten letter dated March 15, 1970. It was addressed to the Railway Operations Director in Madrid, written by the Canfranc station master, a man named Luis Ochoa. The letter was brief. Regarding your inquiry about train 1844, I can confirm the train arrived at Canfranc on schedule at 03:12 on January 28th. The border clearance transmission was sent as per protocol. However, I must report an irregularity. The train's engineer, Tomas Ruiz, did not check in at the station office as required. When I went to the platform at 03:30 to verify departure, the train was no longer present. I assumed it had proceeded to France ahead of schedule, though this would have violated protocol. I have no further information. Mendoza read the letter twice. Tomas Ruiz, any relation to Javier Ruiz? His older brother. Tomas was 51 years old in 1970, experienced engineer, 25 years with the railway, no disciplinary record. She paused. He was never seen again after that night. What? Tomas Ruiz disappeared on January 28, 1970. His family filed a missing persons report in February. The police investigation concluded he likely died in an accident somewhere along the mountain route. Those tracks were treacherous in winter, but they never found a body, never found the train either. Mendoza sat back, trying to process this. So an entire freight train with an experienced engineer vanished somewhere between Canfranc and the French border, and nobody made a serious effort to find it. The bridge collapse 3 weeks later buried everything, literally and figuratively. The station closed, the tracks were abandoned, the whole line was written off as a loss. Who's going to mount a search operation for one missing train when the entire international railway connection just ceased to exist? She gathered the documents back into her briefcase. But here's what I can't explain. Why was Miguel Santana, the telecommunications operator, maintaining a machine that kept transmitting a border clearance request for a train that never crossed the border? for 26 years. You think Santana knew something? I think he was waiting for an answer that never came. Vidal looked at Mendoza with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The system sent a query requesting clearance for train 1844 to cross into France. Someone on the French side was supposed to respond with either approval or denial. But what if that response never came? What if the system was stuck in a loop, waiting for confirmation? Machines don't wait, they execute protocols. Exactly. So why did a dead man keep maintaining it? Mendoza had no answer to that. Vidal closed her briefcase. I'm going to Canfranc, the station. I want to see the room where the teletype was. I want to understand what Santana was doing down there all those years. She looked at Mendoza. Will you come with me? He should have said no. The case was closed. The machine was disconnected. His audit was complete. But 3 days later, on July 17, 1998, Mendoza and Vidal stood together in the basement of Estación de Canfranc, staring at the now silent teletype machine. The maintenance log was still on the table where Ruiz had left it. Vidal opened it to the final entry. March 11, 2008, 2:30 p.m. Ribbon replaced. Unit operational. 4 days before you found it, she noted. Then she did something Mendoza hadn't thought to do. She carefully removed the cloth binding and examined the inside of the notebook's back cover. Tucked into a small pocket, folded into a tight square, was a piece of paper. Vidal unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a telegram, yellowed with age, dated January 28, 1970, 0447. The text read, Bedus de Canfranc, negative confirmation, train 1844 not arrived. Repeat, not arrived. Request status, urgent. Below it, in the same precise handwriting from the maintenance log, someone had written a single sentence. They are still waiting. So am I. The telegram changed everything. Mendoza stared at the faded paper, reading the words again and again. Train 1844, not arrived. The French station had been waiting for a train that never came, and Miguel Santana, dead since 1974, had known. He kept the system running because someone needed to know the train was still missing, Vidal said quietly. He was maintaining a question that was never answered. But that didn't explain the handwriting in the maintenance log continuing 24 years after Santana's death. Mendoza took the telegram from Vidal's hands and examined it more closely. In the bottom corner, barely visible, was a notation in pencil. TR. Recibido, pero no registrado oficialmente. TR. Tomás Ruiz. The engineer received this telegram, Mendoza said slowly, but it was never officially logged. Vidal's eyes widened. He knew the French station was reporting his train as missing. He knew something had gone wrong, but why wouldn't he report it? They spent the next 2 hours searching the basement room. Behind a loose panel in the wall, Vidal found a metal box. Inside were more documents, all in Santana's handwriting, all dated between 1970 and 1974. They were observation logs, detailed notes about the teletype transmissions, signal strength measurements, frequency calibrations. but scattered among the technical entries were stranger notations. April 15th, 1970. No response from Bedus. System continues query. Protocol dictates shutdown after 72 hours, no response. Have disabled auto shutdown. September 3rd, 1970. 6 months. TR's family still searching. Police investigation closed. I cannot stop the signal. January 28th, 1971. 1 year exactly. The machine asks the same question. I maintain it because someone must. December 12th, 1973. I am dying. Heart condition worsening. Have trained no replacement. The system must continue. The final entry was dated March 2nd, 1974, 3 weeks before Santana's death, according to official records. March 2nd, 1974. Have made arrangements. The key will be left. The procedure is documented. Someone will understand. The question must remain active until it is answered. TR deserves that much. Arrangements, Mendoza repeated. He planned for someone to continue after he died. But who? Vidal asked. Javier Ruiz said he recognized his handwriting, but Santana died in 1974. The maintenance logs go to 1998. They returned to the maintenance log and examined it under the basement's fluorescent lights. The handwriting was identical throughout. Same slant, same pressure, same formation of letters, forensically consistent. Except it couldn't be. Vidal had an idea. The notation on the telegram, recibido pero no registrado oficialmente, that's Tomas Ruiz's handwriting, not Santana's. We need a sample to compare. They spent the next week tracking down everything they could about Tomas Ruiz, his employment file from the railway archives, his signature on union documents, a letter he'd sent to his wife in 1969 while working a route through Barcelona. When they compared the samples to the maintenance log, the conclusion was undeniable. The handwriting in the log wasn't Miguel Santana's. It was Tomas Ruiz's. The man who had disappeared with train 1844 in January 1970 had been maintaining the teletype system in the basement of Canfranc for 28 years. That's impossible, Mendoza said, for the third time that day. He vanished. The train vanished. Did they? Vidal looked at him with an expression somewhere between fear and exhilaration. She opened her research notebook to a page of topographical maps. The rail line between Canfranc and Bedus runs through the Somport Tunnel, 5,791 meters through solid mountain. It was an engineering marvel when it was built, but there were always stories about that tunnel. What kind of stories? Workers who built it in the 1920s reported strange acoustic phenomena, sounds that didn't have sources, temperature fluctuations that made no geological sense. 3 workers disappeared during construction, never found, never explained. She traced the rail line route on the map. After the bridge collapse in 1970, no one ever inspected that tunnel again. It's sealed, inaccessible from both sides. Mendoza felt something shifting in his understanding of the case. You think the train is still in the tunnel? I think Tomas Ruiz never left Canfranc, Vidal said. I think whatever happened to him and that train that night, whatever prevented them from reaching France, left him trapped, not dead. Trapped. That's insane. Is it? Then explain the handwriting. Explain 28 years of maintenance by a man who supposedly died in 1970. Explain why he wrote, "They are still waiting, so am I." She closed the notebook. What if the teletype system isn't just transmitting a message? What if it's the only thing keeping him connected? Mendoza wanted to dismiss it, wanted to call it obsessive pattern-seeking, conspiracy thinking, the human need to find meaning in random tragedy. But he couldn't explain the handwriting. He couldn't explain the maintenance. He couldn't explain why a machine in an abandoned station had continued to ask a question about a train that had vanished 28 years earlier, maintained by someone who shouldn't exist. On July 30th, 1998, Mendoza filed a supplementary report with Telefonica. It contained everything they had found: the telegram, the observation logs, the handwriting analysis, the unanswered questions. The company's response came on August 14th. Brief, administrative, final. Thank you for your thoroughness. However, as the unit in question has been decommissioned and the station remains closed with no plans for reactivation, no further investigation is warranted. This matter is considered resolved. Carmen Vidal tried to interest journalists, historians, railway officials. No one wanted to touch it. A missing train from 1970 was ancient history. The Cold War was over. Spain had modernized. Who cared about ghost stories from an abandoned station in the Pyrenees? The story never made national news. It was mentioned briefly in a telecommunications hobbyist magazine in September 1998, then disappeared from public discourse entirely. Mendoza returned to routine work. Vidal continued her research, but without institutional support, she couldn't access the sealed tunnel or push for any official investigation. The last time they spoke was in November 1998. Vidal called him late at night. "I went back to Canfranc," she said. Her voice sounded strained. "The basement room. The machine is still disconnected, but I wanted to see if... I don't know what I expected. And the maintenance log is gone. The metal box with Santana's notes, gone. Even the telegram we found. Someone removed everything. The company probably cleaned it out. Maybe." She didn't sound convinced. "Maybe he did. Maybe he knew we'd found it and took it back. Maybe he doesn't want to be found." "Carmen." "I'm done, Raphael. I can't keep chasing something that doesn't want to be caught." She paused. "But if you ever hear about that system activating again, if anyone ever reports a signal on frequency 447.8 megahertz transmitting X7 Frontena Carga 1844, call me, please." He promised he would. He never had to. In March 2003, the Spanish government announced plans to restore Estación Canfranc as a historical site and potentially reopen the rail line to France as part of a European infrastructure initiative. During preliminary surveys, engineers reported that the basement level had been sealed with concrete at some point after 1998. No official record of who ordered it or when it was done. The room where the teletype had been was inaccessible. In 2010, Carmen Vidal published a book titled Señales Perdidas, Misterios de Estaciones Abandonadas de España. Lost Signals, Mysteries of Spain's Abandoned Stations. She devoted one chapter to Canfranc and Train 1844, but heavily fictionalized the account after consulting with lawyers about potential defamation issues related to the Ruiz family. The book sold poorly. Rafael Mendoza retired from Telefonica in 2015. He gave one interview to a railway history podcast in 2018, speaking carefully about an unusual technical anomaly he'd encountered at Canfranc, but declining to elaborate on specifics. When pressed by the interviewer about the rumors surrounding the case, Mendoza said only, "Some systems are meant to keep running. Some questions are meant to stay unanswered. I learned not to disconnect things I don't fully understand." The Somport Tunnel remains sealed. No one has ever explained what happened to Train 1844. And on certain nights, according to telecommunications enthusiasts who monitor abandoned frequencies, a faint signal can still be detected at 447.8 megahertz, transmitting from somewhere in the Pyrenees.